Hey everybody, Zian over here from Nintendo Life, and today we're here to share with you our review of the Game & Watch Legend of Zelda handheld. Now, this review was originally written by Damian McFerrin for NintendoLife.com, but was reworked into this video by me. Last year, Nintendo provided its fans with the perfect stocking stuffer via its Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. Handheld, a neat tribute to the classic Game & Watch range of LCD games that were so popular in the pre-Game Boy landscape of the early 1980s. That release was essentially created to celebrate 35 years of Super Mario, and this year, the company has returned to the concept with Game & Watch The Legend of Zelda. The first Zelda outing on the NES was released in Japan in 1986, making 2021 the 35th birthday of Link, Ganon, and Princess Zelda. Alongside Super Mario and Metroid, Zelda is one of Nintendo's most popular and beloved franchises, so it makes sense for the Japanese veteran to focus on it for the next in its presumably regular series of Game & Watch updates. As before, Game & Watch The Legend of Zelda, which holds no relation to the actual Zelda Game & Watch from 1989, takes design inspiration from the single-screen handhelds, which first appeared at the dawn of the 80s. While Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. Sported a color scheme that called to mind the Famicom, which is the NES in the West, Game & Watch The Legend of Zelda replaces the dark red with a more fitting green, but retains the gold metal front plate. Outside of that, the design is almost identical to the Super Mario Bros. Version, except for the neat inclusion of the Triforce, which is embossed on the rear of the unit, and sports a little surprise as well, but we'll save that for you to find out on your own. Now, as for the controls, the D-pad feels great, the rubber buttons are responsive, and it's reasonably comfortable to use, although the controls still feel like they're positioned a little too close to the bottom of the device, which can lead to some mild discomfort if you're playing for prolonged periods of time. The rechargeable internal battery is good for around 8 hours of play, and that's with the brightness and volume levels kept relatively low, and is charged using the bundled USB-C cable. There's also no kickstand once again, but at least this time Nintendo has been kind enough to see that the packaging's internal cardboard tray can be turned into a rather fetching display stand. When we reviewed Game & Watch Super Mario Bros., we were slightly disappointed that Nintendo hadn't included more games on the device. On that score, Game & Watch The Legend of Zelda is a slight improvement. As well as the original Legend of Zelda and its often divisive NES sequel Zelda 2 Adventure of Link, you get the 1993 Game Boy outing Zelda Link's Awakening, the same game which was recently remastered on the Nintendo Switch. In addition to these three games, there's also a reimagined version of the 1980 Game & Watch title Vermin, with Link in the starring role bopping some Octoroks, at least that's what it looks like. There's also a special timer mode which allows you to set a time limit between a minute and 10 minutes and beat up as many enemies from Zelda 2 as possible in a separate game. And the unit keeps track of your best score in each different time setting. There's also an interactive clock that is based on the overworld of the original Legend of Zelda. Left to its own devices, this clock will automatically show Link battling a series of enemies from the game, but you can also pick up the unit at any point while this is happening and take control of the Hero of Time yourself. Now, in Japan, the first two Legend of Zelda games were released exclusively on the Famicom Disk System, which was also exclusive to Japan, and these versions of the games actually feature different music and a few other things as well. And because of those notable differences, Nintendo decided to include both the Western versions and the Japanese versions of both Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 on this device. Now, obviously, unless you can actually read Japanese, the Famicom Disk System variants are little more than a neat curiosity. The Japanese version of Link's Awakening is also present, alongside French and Dutch language versions as well. Between the three Zelda games included here, there are many hours of enjoyment to be had, which arguably makes Game & Watch The Legend of Zelda a much better proposition in terms of value than last year's Super Mario-based offering. While the first game shows its age and the second NES title has divided critics since release, they're still worth a play if you're a seasoned fan of the modern Zeldas. Link's Awakening, on the other hand, is just as joyous an experience now as it was back in 1993. It's one of the most oddball Zelda games and really stands up, largely because it borrows so many of its gameplay mechanics from the peerless Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. So much so, in fact, that it makes you wonder why Nintendo didn't include that game too. Link's Awakening is based on humbler technology, admittedly, but it came out after the SNES title, so it would have made sense to see it here, at least in terms of series chronology. Also, why include the original Link's Awakening and not the superior Game Boy Color update, Link's Awakening DX? Still though, you're getting 3 of the foundational Zelda titles as part of this package, as well as some neat throwaway extras. Plus, as Nintendo itself states, this is a collectible item that will look great on your shelf. Now, in an ideal world, this would be bursting with content, but as it stands, we can't say we're disappointed with this ongoing Game & Watch revival. Long may it continue, in fact. Feel free to let us know in the comments down below if you're planning on picking up the Legend of Zelda Game & Watch this holiday for yourself or for a loved one. And of course, let us know what you think of its overall offerings in general as well. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, then why don't you go ahead and make sure to smash that subscribe button with a good old 9 and then ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we put up new videos. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Zion from Nintendo Life. Stay safe out there. And for the next few minutes, enjoy this uninterrupted footage of the Legend of Zelda clock built inside of the Game & Watch Legend of Zelda.